12 contestants went head-to-head to fight for the esteemed title of being the first ever winner on Hell's Kitchen. While most chefs put their best foot forward, these were simply the worst. Like this contestant right here, who was the only one to impress Chef Ramsay with her signature dish. But she failed to make a mark in the service.
Give me your jacket, Hell's Kitchen no longer needs you.
I think it's such a bummer to be the first person to lose out on the opportunity to work alongside Chef Ramsay. And well, that's exactly what happened with Carolyn Valentino. At first, I had a little ray of hope for Carolyn since she was praised by the famous chef for her signature dish. And guess what? Here's something else you should know about her.
I haven't really had any experience.
Never?
Yeah, Carolyn had absolutely no experience in the kitchen. And yet, she was here locking horns with some of the best executive chefs in town. For a second there, I really thought she might come out on top. But when it was time for the service, Carolyn showed a significant lack of collaborative skills. What's more, she also brought her crappy attitude to the surface. In a Reddit post about her, many pointed out how she was unwilling to help her teammates who were crashing and burning. Like one user who called her a waste of time and space on Hell's Kitchen and the restaurant industry. Seeing the change in attitude was quite the surprise, since Carolyn was the only contestant who impressed Chef Ramsay in the previous challenge. She presented a chicken parmesan dish and Chef Ramsay loved it.
It looks appetizing and it's not too crowded. Actually tastes quite nice.
He was so impressed that he even bragged about her to the other contestants.
This lady knows how to cook chicken. She's not even a chef.
But in the end, she just ruined things. During the first service, while all the contestants were scrambling to get things in order, Carolyn did nothing about it. Now, I'm not entirely sure if she did this out of pure ignorance or arrogance. But Carolyn, who was assigned to the dessert station, made absolutely no attempt to help her team out. Ideally, the desserts are the last thing to go, right? And as a rule, any chef who's assigned to the station helps the other teammates out instead of waiting around and doing nothing. But Carolyn was a different breed altogether. She just stood at her station like a marble statue and stared at her teammates.
I looked over to Caroline and she was just standing there.
Chef Ramsay quickly spotted her being a sloth and urged her to help her teammates out. But her reaction is the very definition of laziness.
I want you to get on the stove and help.
All right.
Did you see how laid back she was? It looks like the heat of the kitchen never really got to her. Sometimes I feel like she was just waiting for her turn to start working. Or maybe she could have also pitched in after Chef Ramsay asked her to.
Get on the stove and help them out.
Instead, Carolyn just got very angry about it.
Chef Ramsay just really made me angry.
But did he? Ramsay only asked you to help out with all the stations instead of standing around like a dumbass. If you ask me, her reaction was totally idiotic. And this Reddit user right here felt the same. I don't know how she thought it was okay to just stand there and be a baggage to everyone while the kitchen was being torn down. Ramsay was swift to realize that this Texan girl wouldn't last very long in a team setup. And well, it was better to do away with her before it was too late. So at the very first chance that he got, he decided to eliminate her, and this was the reason he gave for his decision.
This whole competition is about teams.
Sharing her experience on Hell's Kitchen, she said,
"What the hell was I doing on that show? I mean, oh my God, talk about resilient skills. You want to talk about pulling up some skills dealing with Gordon Donkey Ramsay? I mean, he called everybody a freaking donkey. Thank God he didn't call me a donkey. He did like my chicken parmesan, which I kind of predicted they'd make us cook on the first day, but it was hard. I felt like I wanted to shit a souffle every 5 seconds.
I guess she realized that the culinary industry wasn't her cup of tea because apparently she became an actress much after the show. But this next contestant had a very pleasing personality, but when it came down to cooking, he was the worst. Did you know that Jeffrey Dewberry abandoned his team twice? He was truly one of the worst chefs in Hell's Kitchen history. But when it came to personality, Dewberry was simply the best. In a discussion about Dewberry on Reddit, a user wrote about how he was just on the show for 2 days and was way more memorable than the chefs in recent seasons. Dewberry was kind, funny, and soon he became a fan favorite. It's a shame that, as a chef, he couldn't impress Ramsay even once. If I had to summarize his journey on the show, right from the signature dish challenge, Dewberry came across as a really jovial guy. It was really funny when the famous chef got his name wrong when he introduced himself. But honestly, I think Ramsay did that on purpose.
Blueberry.
Dewberry.
Oh, Dewberry.
Yes.
When Chef Ramsay dug into his spaghetti, what Dewberry thought would happen was even more hilarious.
Oh my God, he's gonna kill me.
Well, thankfully, Chef Ramsay didn't kill him, but he did murder his dish when he said this.
Completely overcooked. That's just like children's food.
I think Dewberry lacked one of the most important things required to work in a kitchen, which is energy. He was so full of anxiety during the prep time that I was unsure he would be able to perform well during the first service. When the service finally began, the pressure was far worse than the prep. And the very presence of Chef Ramsay was enough to make him weak in his bones. The pastry chef from Georgia was assigned to the garnish station, which, let me remind you, is just as hard as any other station. Yeah, the garnishes might be easy to cook, but keeping up with the orders could be really difficult. Because, well, with every main dish, at least 2 sides get ordered. To make sure that everything goes out smoothly, the chef needs to have a tremendous amount of energy, and Dewberry barely had any of that. Seeing the lack of energy from Dewberry, Chef Ramsay was starting to get really annoyed.
Like one big fucking overgrown muffin, just standing there. Can you help them a little bit, no?
And this was the reason behind his nomination. Honestly, it wasn't really Dewberry's turn to go. There were far worse contestants on the show at the time. I remember Elsie Ramos even promised him that she wouldn't nominate him.
After talking to Elsie, I know that everything's gonna be okay.
He, however, shined in the Squid Challenge by scoring 2 points for his teammates. But if you thought that his first service was bad, then wait till you see his second one.
God almighty.
Come on, Dewberry.
Ramsay was so upset with him that he actually called him useless. I mean, what else could you make of someone who walks up to you and says this?
I'm confused. I don't know what I'm doing. The only thing I mastered tonight was cooking spaghetti. Thank God I could do one thing.
Despite that, Chef Ramsay let him stay so that he could get his act together. But when complaints started to make their way to the kitchen, Dewberry made the most ridiculous statement ever.
I have no idea. Best answer.
What?
As a chef standing in Chef Ramsay's kitchen, how could you talk like that? But I think he was unaware of how Chef Ramsay would react because, remember, this was the very first season of the show. The famous chef, however, wasn't having any of it. This attitude was unacceptable, so he confronted him, and Dewberry gave him a few straight answers.
You don't care?
No.
You're not interested, are you?
No.
No, you can't cut it.
No, I can't.
That was a poor move by Dewberry. That's not how you make a comeback, especially not with Chef Ramsay. And to make things worse, Dewberry didn't even wait for Ramsay to kick him out because he did the honors himself when he said this.
Goodbye. That's it.
Dewey!
Just like Chef Ramsay said, that's it, that was the end of Dewberry on the show. And there was a very simple reason behind his elimination, and Ramsay didn't mince his words when he said this.
You're a coward, and you turned your back on your team after you screwed them.
However, that wasn't the last we saw of Dewberry on the show. He came back once again for the finale, and this time, Dewberry wasn't gonna quit like he did before. And suppose he did feel like quitting, this is what he asked Andrew Bonito to do.
If I fall out, just kick me in the ass and push me back up.
I'll make sure to live up to that.
But how could I forget the thing he said when he delivered a perfectly cooked sea bass?
It's full of love.
And then, of course, the most iconic scene ever arrived.
You are Gibraltar, you are the Hope Diamond.
I'd rather you be saying I was Brad Pitt's wife.
Dewberry not only made us laugh, but also Chef Ramsay and sous chef Scott. Now, tell me, how many contestants were able to do that, huh? That's exactly what makes Dewberry different from everyone else. This man will forever be remembered for his personality, and viewers can't help but point out how likable he was. For someone as happy-go-lucky and pure-hearted as him, it was a shame that he lacked the leadership skills, passion, and drive to fight until the very end. But this next contestant did exactly that. He was so full of complaints that he literally fought all the way until his elimination. You know how Chef Ramsay doesn't like people who keep complaining? Well, Jeff Lepoff couldn't stop himself from doing just that. He constantly went on and on about how he never worked in a brigade before. And well, his gross lack of experience began to show just hours into the competition. Now, this is the same guy who not only made lame excuses, but also cursed at Chef Ramsay. Jeff quit his job to be on Hell's Kitchen, but little did he know that working in the kitchen was going to be nothing like his previous job. Truthfully, Jeff should have waited to apply for MasterChef rather than Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen is not for people who can't take the pressure and the heat. Period. Really, anyone could cook, but not everyone could deal with what happens in a professional culinary setting. The thing is, Jeff really sucked at taking criticism. Every time something went wrong, he complained about not working in the kitchen before. But nobody had time for that kind of crap. Honestly, it was hilarious how confident he was about being assigned as a waiter.
I'm very good with people. I deal with people for a living.
Well, guess what? All the tables he served disliked him. Not only could he not answer questions, he didn't know where the right tables were and who to give the tickets to.
No, you need to say, chef, order, and you take it, please. And leave the ticket on top.
It was hilarious to see his confidence be completely shattered. To be completely honest, it was just overconfidence. Just because you worked with people before doesn't mean it's gonna come in handy, right? Customer service is a completely different thing. In a Reddit discussion about Jeff, one user pointed out how he often mentioned his lack of experience on the line. Well, Elsie was new to it as well, but she never whined about it. In fact, she improved and finished things off in 4th place. But wait, there's more. This has to be one of the most cringeworthy moments on the show. At one point, Jeff showed off his kidney stone that he just expelled while everyone was eating. While Elsie's reaction was pretty funny, I actually found this moment to be disgusting.
Are you kidding me? It's that fucking small?
And well, so did several viewers as well. I mean, we're all here to see some good cooking skills in action, not something as vile as a kidney stone being pissed out. And in the midst of all the complaining, Jeff also switched over to being a complete jerk. First, he locked horns with sous chef Marianne. When Jeff failed to cook a simple dish, Michael came to help him, and when Jeff started to complain, this is what happened.
I'm doing it. I'm trying.
Are you talking to me right now? Are you?
It all started with him complaining about how he never worked on the line before. Dude, she really doesn't care about that. Sous Chef Marianne isn't your team member. And if that wasn't enough, he did the same thing to Chef Ramsay too. All Ramsay cares about is if quality food reaches the customer on time, but Jeff didn't seem to get the point.
Chef, this is my first time on a line.
Do you want to argue?
What happened next turned Jeff into a meme. After facing an angry Chef Ramsay, he decided that he was done for good. Now, remember what happened to Dewberry? In Jeff's case, the drama was way more intense.
What did he say?
You don't like me. I don't know what to tell you. You're an asshole. Oh my God, enough of it.
And just like that, Jeff got a frame in the Meme Hall of Fame. And before you think that was the end of it, there was something that was displayed about Jeff before the episode concluded. It flashed so quickly on the screen that you'd actually miss it in a blink. However, this sparked a lot of curiosity in me. Apparently, after Jeff called it quits, he actually tried to confront Chef Ramsay. And although Ramsay may have loved to have broken his bones, Jeff did that himself when he injured his ankle on the way out. If you don't believe me, then take a look at this. In a little discussion on Quora, John Douglas, who was a part of the production team on Hell's Kitchen, shared a few details about the whole incident. He spoke about a contestant from season 1 who went backstage to confront Chef Ramsay. This was all done at a time when none of the cameras were rolling. However, Ramsay still had his mic on and the operators backstage could hear everything. Whatever happened after that left Jeff with an injured ankle. This dude should have done some research on Chef Ramsay since he is a black belt in karate after all. I'll leave it to your imagination as to what might have happened backstage. But one Reddit user joked about the confrontation, comparing it with the infamous moment between Chef Ramsay and Joseph Tonelli. As for Jeff, he just couldn't move on in life. In an interview with the New York Post in 2005, Jeff claimed that he took abuse for hours and didn't regret what he said to Chef Ramsay. He stood by every single word that he said. According to him, somebody needed to tell Chef Ramsay that he was a jerk-off, and apparently the famous chef deserved it. He spoke about how it got to a point where he felt like Ramsay was riding him to no end and he couldn't take it anymore. He also added how the editing hardly showed what he actually endured. Those are some really big accusations that he's making on a public platform. Do you think that he's really telling the truth, or is he just overreacting like he always did on the show? Well, I think he chickened out and as usual, blamed it on Chef Ramsay. But this next contestant, who claimed to be a perfectionist, was actually so dumb that she failed to show any perfection at all. You can't deny that Wendy Liu made it a point to surprise us with her stupidity in pretty much everything that she did or said. First off, she acted flat out dumb when Chef Ramsay quizzed her about her signature dish. Remember when she gave a ridiculous explanation that wasn't even needed?
Chinese sausage.
Had I known you were coming, I would have put lobster in it.
Well, of course, she knew Ramsay was coming. Which makes me wonder, what was she really trying to do? Most viewers felt that Wendy had no personality, and the only thing she did was to consistently serve substandard food. Another user commented how the pressure and nerves of the show probably caused her dumbness. But I'm not so sure that explains her stupid statement during her last service in the 3rd episode. That day, Wendy was working on the appetizers, and 2 food critics were invited to dine at Hell's Kitchen. So obviously, Chef Ramsay wanted to serve perfection just like he always does. But before she served the appetizers to the critics, Wendy served Chef Ramsay a WTF moment. When the famous chef asked her why she filled the pot with cold water instead of hot water to boil her spaghetti, this is what she had to say.
I thought cold water was supposed to boil faster than hot water.
And Chef Ramsay's reaction became a meme when he said,
What?
I mean, he was totally blown away by her answer. This perfectionist wanted to ignore the laws of physics. Anyway, she eventually managed to boil the cold water and her dish reached the critics' table. After all that went down, was the spaghetti at least good? Well, this is how the critics reacted.
It's like chewy lobster and then tomatoes and it doesn't come together.
This was yet another substandard dish, and Chef Ramsay decided that it was time to send Wendy packing. After the elimination, it was clear that she was also disappointed in herself, and this is what she had to say.
Nothing went right. I feel like I let myself down, I let the team down, and I let Chef down.
If you ask me, I think Ramsay put her out of her misery by eliminating her. And well, this was something that Wendy needed, so she could return to her accounting job for good. So these were some of the worst chefs from season 1. But who knows, there may be more times when the chefs do something even worse to sabotage their fellow teammates. And before you forget, if you enjoyed my content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications. Also, if you want to see something even crazier, check out my latest video right here.